Hello and welcome to 52%, the show that talks about everything and anything going on in Liverpool and beyond from the perspective of 52% of the population, women. Today we're having a special episode to raise awareness and support for a local amazing charity, Clare House Children's Hospice. They help seriously and terminally ill children live life to the full by creating wonderful experiences and bringing back a sense of normality to family life. Here's what's coming up today. Now with us today is the lovely Lauren Luxton from Clare House, and we are going to be showing you, before we get started, a little look at a short film all about the amazing work that we all know that Clare House does.
Clare House is a place where we come when we're a bit sad. I lost my brother to his battle of leukemia. I'm going to pray and show you how good Clare House is. This is the swing of Clare House, and it's really fun to play on. You can do lots of things here in the Clare House Hospice. Although Clare House might be sad at times, it can also be a very fun place. It's really fun up here. You get lots to do, lots of things, and even better, go down slides. Woo!
Meg is a madam. I use the word that in a loving, caring way. Everybody that comes across Meg adore her. She, despite being very limited in her ability, she can let you know how she is feeling and what she likes and what she doesn't like and what makes her laugh and what gets her upset. And we often say, don't we, if there was anything not wrong, if everything was all right with Meg, we would have been called into school. She would have got into loads of trouble. She would have been out and we wouldn't know where she was. Yeah. And she would have caused us lots of mischief and heartache.
She's feisty.
She's very feisty. She is very feisty. But is the most loving young lady you could ever want to meet, really, aren't you, darling?
Ooh, what a goal!
Mainly our mum and dad thought it was a place where you die. Yeah. Which was the first initial thought, but actually it can help your life significantly. It can make you confident and make you into improve certain skills as well, I think.
Yeah, and help you enjoy life.
Draw on the left there.
Because sometimes with these conditions you feel a bit
The big one on the left, the skyscraper. Maybe I think it's a bit angled.
Yeah, but when we come here, we're just very happy and we enjoy every time we're here and share what we're with ourselves. What do we think? Are we like that?
So as I say, we've got Lauren Luxton with it. I love that name, by the way. Can I
Thank
just
you
say
very
it's a
much.
fabulous name.
Yeah, I've inherited that.
Now, obviously, a lot of people are aware of Clare House, but I think it's one of those things that, because it mentions the word hospice, children, people try to sort of not block it out, but don't really know the exact work that goes on. And what I thought was the most amazing thing about that video there was it was done through the eyes of a child, and it seems such a lovely place to go. And, you know, just enlighten us a little bit about
Yeah,
Clare
absolutely.
House.
Well, Clare House Children's Hospice, we are based on the Wirral, but we support families throughout Merseyside. And I think you bring up a really good point. The word hospice is often something that people sort of recoil from. Many people might have had experiences in adult hospices or family or friends that have passed away in a hospice. A lot of what we do and how we may describe ourselves is short breaks for families, you know, and some people have you know, very lightheartedly described Clare House as Butlins, as haven, you know, as a home away from home. So what Clare House effectively does is we provide short breaks, respite, care and end-of-life care to children with serious and terminal conditions, as well as care for their entire family. So yes, we are a hospice. Yes, we do care for a child at the end of their life, which is something people might be more expecting a hospice to do. However, we are with families for their entire journey, no matter how long that might be. And we're about making the most of every day, about allowing families to live life to the full. And actually, I say that, but it's about bringing back a sense of normality, or what is their normal, and helping them to come to terms with what is their normal and embracing that and living their lives and spending their time together in the best way that they can.
Because I think the other thing is, I mean, obviously we'll touch on the children themselves, but one thing that you kind of forget about is that these families who've got either seriously or terminally ill children, they've got sometimes brothers and sisters, and at some point that brother or sister or sibling is going to think, hang on a minute, I'm here, what about me? And this is sort of giving them the chance to say, okay, well, you can go there for the day. It's not like you're being sent somewhere that you're not going to want to be. It's a fun place.
Absolutely.
There's stuff, I mean, you can just tell even by that. So it's giving them quality family time with other siblings as well, isn't it?
Exactly. And one thing we really pride ourselves on at Clare House is to ensure that we care for the family in the way they want to be cared for. This isn't about us telling them what they need or any medical professionals telling families what they need. It's about saying to them, what do they want? Do you want to spend time together as a family? Do all your children want to play together and be together? Or do you have older children and they want to come to the hospice, have a relax, get away from mum and dad want to go on holiday, or they want to go on a day out, or they want to spend time with some other children and give them their undivided attention. It is entirely what our families want, and some families come to Clare House altogether. Others might leave their children or the people they care for with us and go off and do their own thing. We really are about working with the family. We provide a holistic approach to care, which basically means we look after everyone as a person. What do they like? What do they dislike? What do they need? What works for them? And that's the most important part of what we do, is getting to know each of our families as individuals, our children, their siblings, their parents, their grandparents, their aunties and uncles, whoever it may be, and providing them with the care they need.
And I think the thing is, from a parent's point of view, they've got a chance to meet other parents and other families, because I would imagine that, God forbid, if you have got a terminally ill child or a serious illness, that you almost feel guilty for any second you miss out with them. You feel bad enough as a parent of healthy children when I'm not with them, but to know that you're cherishing every second, and to know that they're going to be going somewhere where they're going to be having fun and enjoying the time, it must make such a difference.
I know from sort of what parents have told me that coming to Clare House for the first time is a real challenge for a parent. I think any mums watching might remember the first time they took their child to nursery or to school, and how terrifying that was to leave them in the care of somebody else. Well, as you say, a child with a serious or terminal condition, that is times by 1,000. It's not something that, fortunately we have to comprehend. So we spend a lot of time getting to know our families, and actually a lot of our families don't actually set foot in the hospice itself. And it's probably worth me saying that we provide a service called Hospice to Home, which actually takes the services and the care of the hospice into the family home. And that might be for a short term, if a family just needs that little bit of reassurance. They want to know a bit more what we're about. They want to meet our team. Or it might be that a child is receiving end-of-life care. They're coming to the end of their life and they're choosing to be cared for at home. And they might either have chosen that, or they might just be simply too ill to come to the hospice. So whilst we have a building based in the Wirral that people might know about, our care transcends that building and spreads throughout the area.
So what sort of things do you offer in the home then? So how does that work?
It could be anything from, and I don't want to sort of trivialise it, but it could be sort of almost a babysitting service, if you like. And I won't trivialise it, because what our team and our nurses do is far more than that. So our nurses might go into the family home, just allow mum to go and get her hair done, go and get a coffee, go and do some shopping, go and care for an old elderly relative, and they just stay with the little one, make sure their medical needs are met, but also, you know, just colouring, watching telly, playing, taking them out. It could also be that a child has had a long stay in hospital, and our team will go into the hospital, they'll stay with the child, they'll read with them, play with them, just so mum and dad can go and get a shower, have a break, go home.
Exactly. I mean, Lauren, that's something you've touched on there. There's so much more. You've got the pool there, the music therapy. We're going to look at all of that there. I'm absolutely stunned. I think we all are. I had no idea that existed. But if you do join us after the break, we're going to be speaking more to Lauren, learning more about Clare House. All of us here absolutely astounded, even in this short time, by the things that we didn't know about Clare House and just how wonderful it is. Welcome back. We're having a special episode today to raise awareness and support for an amazing local charity, Clare House Children's Hospice, and we are joined by Lauren Luxton from Clare House itself. Now, just before the break, we spoke about the facilities that are obviously there. You've got the pool, you've got therapies. Just tell us a little bit more about what's on offer for the children.
Absolutely. Well, at Clare House, we've got loads of different facilities for our families, and one of the main ones that you mentioned, which is a real draw for our families, is our hydrotherapy pool. The reason that's such a draw is because a lot of the needs of our families and the needs of the children, they can't actually go in a normal swimming pool. It's full of bugs and slugs, it's the wrong temperature, it's noisy, it's full of other people. And our hydrotherapy pool means that the children can get to experience swimming, which, as we all know, is a great relaxant. It's wonderful for our children's muscles, especially if they suffer from spasms or they have to sit in a wheelchair all day. They're just so free and fluid, and they can move, and it's so relaxing for them. So it's a real draw for our families. A lot of our children also can't access hydrotherapy in school. Schools simply don't have the facilities that we do. So a lot of our families will access it that way. And the other reason that people come to use our pool, which is my favourite reason why, is they all come together. So mum and dad and the kids, and they'll all come together. They'll get the noodles out or the Lilos or whatever it is, and they'll just splash around together in a pool, which is
a family experience rather than a therapeutic thing.
Something everyone should experience, and parents should always be able to take their kids swimming, regardless of their medical needs, and that's what we aim to provide. So. Not only do our physiotherapists and our care team work really hard in the pool to ease the children's pain and to relax them and help them sleep better, whatever it is, they'll also just have brilliant family time in the pool as well.
And it's about doing the normal things, isn't it, regardless of anything else. I think one thing we wanted to touch on as well was the fundraising side of it, because it's an amazing place. You're doing, the hospice to the home service, but all of this doesn't just happen, does it, Lauren? And I think from the experience that I've had with Clare House over the years, you have an amazing support of people who are ambassadors for the charity. I know the Rooneys were obviously very heavily involved. I think in some ways, not went as a hindrance, but I think at some point it was sort of thought that, they get enough money because the Rooneys are involved, they don't need it. And that's the impression that I got, is that certainly sometimes that people think it does run itself because of the ambassadors.
And that's not the only misconception that we have. A lot of people believe that we're part of the NHS, that we're the same as a lot of adult hospices, which do get a little more government funding. We do have funding from the NHS. We do get a small amount of government funding, and we do also have, we commission our services out to the NHS. So it is a common misconception that we're either completely funded by the NHS or not at all. Right. We do receive funding from the NHS, but we do work very hard for it. The vast majority, about 70 to 80% of our funding is voluntary donations.
Wow.
So we cost at the moment best part of £3.2 million a year to run, and that breaks down to roughly, and please don't quote me on the maths, about £6,500 a day to provide the services that we do to the 193 families that we support. So we really rely.
Well,
Do you know, that's
contained. I would have expected it to have been more than that.
So did I, actually.
193. What I think that number for me though is the tip of the iceberg. One thing that we do know at Clare House is that, especially in Liverpool, we are only reaching half the number of families that we could. And so our dream is to reach every single family in Liverpool and the surrounding areas that could need our help. So 193 is simply the tip of the iceberg, and that's currently active families that we're supporting. It doesn't count necessarily for every family that we've helped their child through end-of-life care. It might not be every family that we're supporting with counselling or family support.
But the amount of money that if you like, that's being donated, that you're working with, given the quality of what you're delivering, is an extraordinarily small amount, it seems to me. That's what shocked me about the figures that you just said, is like only that amount.
Really?
And seriously.
Well,
seriously. And consequently,
like
people need to be giving more.
It
so
seems
that
like
you
a mountain to
do it.
climb. I know every year. And to be honest, the amount of care we need to give needs to grow. The number of families we're supporting needs to grow. And we can't continue to provide the care that we do on the money that we currently receive. We do rely on the local community to keep us going. We are a community organisation. We're for the community. We're for
fundraisers who come round the houses, don't you?
We do.
And actually, your organisation is the only one that I support on a monthly basis because well, not just because it's local, but because of what it's doing, because of that very, very valuable work. And I'd love to see what you do grow and grow, go nationwide, because you know, I have a friend who's in a difficult position who would probably be a user of your services, and seeing what what her family's going through on a day-to-day basis, as well as having to deal with all the crap that goes on in work, all the crap that's going on with extended members of family, you know, the car's broken down, this, that, you know, life's really stressful and difficult a lot of the time anyway. To have all that to deal with on top, I mean, I'm just a big, big fan.
And that's why a lot of our support comes from mums, from women, because they can truly relate to what our families are going to. And that's not to say dads can't, of course they can, but I know we've had some of our supporters who've run marathons, who've done crazy things, and they say, actually, whilst I really, really want to care for these children, I really want to care for these women. They're exhausted. You know, they don't sleep properly. They're, you know, they don't need sympathy. They don't need pity. They need support. They need a helping hand. They need a shoulder to cry on. They need a glass of wine handed to them, and they just exactly.
And as you said earlier, a little bit of respite just to go and get your hair done.
And it doesn't. One thing that's I've also heard from our mums is, I can't leave my child with you. It makes me a bad mum. I can't if I don't. If I exactly.
Earlier, and
if I can't care for my daughter, my son, I must be a bad mum. And it takes a long time for a mother to actually realise, do you know what? I think you're being a better parent. I think you're being a responsible parent.
Even to go home for a couple of hours
Exactly.
sleep. So you're there as much for the parents as for the children themselves, isn't it? And I think one hurdle that perhaps you come across, is it hard initially for the parents, as you're saying, to go over and say, right, this is the point where I am going to need the help.
Really
That's the main stumbling block.
That must be the first
to come
hardest
over.
hurdle to overcome, actually.
And we're there for a family. At whatever point in their journey they join us, we're always there for them. So some families might come to us with a tiny baby who's been diagnosed. Some people might actually come to us before their child is born, and we'll provide neonatal care, and that's a lot of what we do as well with tiny babies. Wow. We might also have families that come to us and say, my daughter's was diagnosed with Rett syndrome, for example, 15 years ago, and I'm at my end of my tether. It's taken them 15 years to go, actually, now I need you.
Yeah,
now I
I
need
can't
you.
actually
I've been
deny it
okay,
to myself
and
anymore.
now. So whatever point in their journey they come to us, we provide them with the support that they need in the way that they need it.
How do you, I think for me, and I would imagine that Maisie and Kathy feel the same, that how do you not become emotionally attached to the families and the children? Do you, how do you manage that? I know, I can't.
I don't not get attached. I don't think I might not work in the care team, but I don't not get emotionally attached to our families. And I think that helps everyone that works at Clare House do our jobs. We need to be emotionally involved with these families because we're looking after them, as I said earlier, we're looking after them as people. We need to get to know them as people. We need to be able to provide that care that they need on an emotional, spiritual, physical level. And so it's really important that we get to know families on all of those levels. We are different to a hospital in that sense. Hospitals provide wonderful, and we're so lucky on Merseyside to have some of the best medical facilities in the country. They provide a level of care, and we try and just put a little bit of glitter, some sprinkles on that care and add that extra. We work really closely with Alder Hay. We've worked with Clatterbridge Cancer Centre in the past as well, if any of our children have oncology needs. We work with various different organisations to make sure that our families are receiving the best all-round care.
I mean, you organise so many fun events as well, don't you, to raise, I mean, there's like the splash, there's all kind of, just tell us very briefly just a couple of the events that you've got coming up this year.
As I say, we need to raise £3.1 million a year. It doesn't just raise itself. But we really love to pull the local community in doing that, and so they can have a real laugh. And it's not about fundraising targets and figures, it's just about having fun. The Splash Dash is our signature event. It's in its 4th year now. And the Splash Dash is Merseyside's original powdered paint fun run.
Does this take place in the Sefton
It
Park?
does.
Oh,
It
I've
does,
seen.
and you have powdered paint thrown at you.
I've seen these poor people
So much fun.
covered.
Yes.
And I thought, what's this all about?
What
It's
makes
you.
our event really, really special, and there's a few things, but one, there's no lower or upper age limit, so Nan can do it, pushing baby in the pram. Yeah. What's also really special is some of our bereaved families cover the paint stations. So we have, if it's 5K, we have 5 paint stations, and each of our families pick a colour that's meaningful to them and their family and their child, and they throw paint and they have a brilliant time, all in memory of their child. So it's amazing.
This is what we
it's
like
such a
about
positive
it.
way of remembering them, so we love it.
We're just going to quickly, I know it's flying by today. We've got to take a really short break. However, when we do come back, we're going to be sharing some of the inspiring stories of Clare House families. If you would like to donate from this to Clare House and help support the work, you can do so by texting Clare to 70500. That's Clare, CLAIRE, to 70500. We'll see you after the break. Welcome back. We're having a very special episode today to raise awareness and support an amazing local charity, Clare House Children's Hospice.
People ask us all the time how we do this job and say, oh, you must be an amazing kind of person. To be honest, it's not. We're here because we want to be here, and we're here because we want to look after the child and family. And if the sad thing does have to happen where you do lose a child, to me this is the place to be, because we can make those memories and we can just make everything so much better. We can offer that support after the child's passed away. We can look after the siblings on a long-term basis. Obviously it's sad. We wouldn't be human if we didn't feel emotional, but it's not our grief either, is it? We're here to look after the family.
For me, I was very resistant to it. I didn't want to come here because I was struggling to accept what had happened to us. But then I sort of realised that it was all about what was best for Erin, not what was best for us, and we had to sort of get over that, really. And then when I came here, I was bowled over by it, really, about how kind everybody was and how understanding, and it was a real tonic, just that first visit, just to speak to other people who'd been in similar situations to us. And the thing that struck me the most was how happy everybody was, and And I mean the staff when I say that, how everybody was so accommodating and like really pleased to see you, and that was what tipped us the other way really, and has got us the way we are now, that we love bringing her here because we know how much fun she has here, how much she enjoys it, you know.
Helen and I obviously knew that James wasn't going to be with us for all that long, and so it was really important to us that the time we spent to him was going to be the most precious time we could have ever wished for. Clare House was there to give us the confidence to live a normal life with James, and I think there were times when you perhaps forgot that he was so poorly. We wanted to introduce him to all of his family. They wanted to meet him, and we wanted to do it at home, not in the confines of a hospital. We wanted to be able to take him outside. We took him to the zoo. We went to the beach. We just did normal things, and were able to enjoy doing those normal things. And I just hoped that when James had been born, that he was going to make it to his 9th day. James's 9th day was the same day that Sam, his brother, was having his first football match. Sam was 9 then, Sam's 11 now. And we were able to get James to that football match. And just to have them both there was just so special for me. We only got to see the first half of that football match, and we had to rush home, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
And when we were home, we wandered around the house with James. We took him outside onto the swing. We came inside and Helen just cradled him, and we just waited, didn't we? Mm. And he passed away ever so peacefully, and Clare House came round. And I think for that moment, having Clare House there when you've just lost your baby, you can't describe how immeasurable that contribution has been to our lives.
The most simplest of things make the most difference to these families, because how normal is it to take your baby out in a garden in a pram, but you don't get to do that in a hospital? And then afterwards, the support that the family continue to get, it's a year on, but they still have support from family support, sibling support. They can have reflexology and other aromatherapies. So we just don't stop when the child's died. We don't stop the support there, it carries on.
And after James had died, the ladies from Clare House, the hospice to home team, you know, they called the doctor for us. They basically just took over and made all the practical arrangements. You know, Andy and I would not have had a clue, you know, what we were doing, and so they just looked after us and looked after James. And then James was, you know, we actually brought James to Clare House. You know, he was in my arms, you know, Andy drove. He didn't have to be taken by a funeral director because we were so worried about that. You know, James spending the days leading up to his funeral in a funeral parlour all by himself. So it was lovely to come here to Clare House, to spend some time in the Butterfly Suite, to stay with James, so more friends and family could visit and they could say their, you know, say their goodbyes.
There was a piece of writing that I read about a lady who had a child with disability, and she explained it so well. And she said that you plan this trip that everyone's been on, that all your friends are going on, and you're all going to the same place, you're all going to Amsterdam, and so you buy the books about where you're going to go and the places you're going to visit, and you learn the language, and you prepare yourself for that journey, and then you get on the flight and you end up in Greece, where everyone speaks a different language, and you have no preparation for what's there and what to go and see and what to do. And you can lament over the fact that you didn't end up going where you were supposed to go, but ultimately you're in such a beautiful place anyway with beautiful surroundings, so why be upset about that and just enjoy what you've got? And that really was a really, yeah, it really touched me and helped me to recover, I think, a little bit from what should have been. And I can't say that we don't sit and look and think what she should be doing and get upset when we see other children running around in the park and just to hear her say a word would be, you know, incredible. But these things haven't happened and probably won't happen, but we don't ever put any boundaries on her. And she knows that. You know, we encourage Erin to do and to be everything that she can be, regardless of her disability. And we tell her, you know, that you'll do this and you'll do that. And she agrees, because when you say that she won't, she kicks off. And she knows what she wants, don't you?
Well, there you go. I don't think there's a dry eye. I would say.
There isn't a dry eye in the house.
I mean, so much of this has been such a positive thing about Clare House, which is really what we want people to know, that it's not a place to go to that's full of sadness, but ultimately at the end of the journey there is. And can you just tell us a little bit about what you provide even on there to the families once their child has passed away?
Yeah, of course I can. So this is where Clare House does become a hospice in that sense of the word, and we care for a child at the end of their life and for their family once they've died. When a child comes to the end of their life, we do whatever we can to make their last few days, weeks as beautiful, as memorable as possible, and that can be anything from handprints on a canvas. A lot of our mums, for example, wear little tiny pendants with little fingerprints and thumbprints, and we arrange that for them. We arrange the siblings to make memory boxes of their brother or sister with locks of hair, things that remind them of them, things they've done. And those are the practical side of things. We'll also provide round-the-clock care, where our team are on call 24/7. If a family needs to know anything, there's any problems at all, we're at the end of that phone. And when a child does pass away, we're there as well. You heard on the VT, our team will go along, support the families in whatever they need. The family might choose to come to Clare House, in which case we have a suite called the Butterfly Suite, which is a beautiful, homely, cosy room where the children rest and the families can spend time there saying goodbye, singing to their child, brushing their hair, dressing them, bathing them, just taking their time. We also provide a lot of practical care, funeral arrangements, registering a death, these things that we haven't got a clue. Like, you wouldn't know how to do this, especially in the emotional state that our families must be in. As I say, funeral arrangements, arranging the death, and then we have a family support team who provide ongoing emotional care for however long a family needs it. And sometimes you actually find what I think is quite poignant. For a year after a child's died, families they cope because everyone remembers the first anniversary. They remember the first Christmas. They remember the first Mother's Day. It's the second anniversary that people start to peter off, and the third and the fourth and the fifth. And it actually doesn't get any, whilst other people's lives move on, it doesn't get any easier for our families. And I think that's where our family support team really add value to their lives.
I did want to ask you about my friend. I did notice after her son's diagnosis that other friends would disappear. And I do think it's because we, as a society, we find it very difficult to talk about death, to talk about terminal illness, particularly where children are concerned. But that's left her more isolated. And so I'm thinking from a point of view of parents, not just for the children, the work you're doing is just astounding and so necessary.
We provide that emotional support to a family, whether a child's died or whether they've had a diagnosis. It's an awful lot to get your head round. And I think you're right, you do find that, you know, people are very caring and they want to be supportive, but they just flipping don't know how to do it.
Exactly.
They don't know how to do it.
It's not through people not wanting to. It is literally, we haven't got those skills around. People dying. You know, for whatever reason, and people just often don't know what
Clare
to do.
House can help to address those things, especially, for example, I feel that grandparents often get quite a raw deal when it comes to a serious diagnosis of their grandchild, or if their grandchild's passed away. Not only are they dealing with their own grief in losing their grandchild, they're dealing with the pressure of caring for their own child who's lost their child. So it's actually a bit of a double whammy, and I think grandparents must really struggle to balance those emotions, and Clare House is there for grandparents, we're there for aunties and uncles. And that care can be one-on-one, it can be in group support. As I say, we do a lot of work with siblings, whether that's sort of, again, group work or taking them out and allowing them to explore their feelings. And it's amazing how open children can be. You know, I've been privy to conversations about my brother's this and my sister's this, and what's your sister like? Oh, my sister's like this. And it's so beautiful and so black and white and so simple, and it's just the way that they explore their feelings, and we help them to do that.
Well, the job that you're doing is just incredible. It really, really is. Thank you so much, Lauren. We really do appreciate it. We are going to be talking about what's trending once again in just a few moments from now, but no doubt after hearing from Lauren today, if you would like to donate to Clare House and help support their vital work, do text Clare, that's CLAIRE, to 70500. We'll be back with you very shortly. Welcome back, and this episode we've been finding out about a wonderful local charity, Clare House Children's Hospice. Lauren Luxton from there is going to be joining us to find out this week what's been trending. Of course, David Cameron been in the news so much with the Panama Papers leak. We're going to hand this one over to Maisie because we know she's got some very strong views on this.
Okay. Now, I have actually made notes, a few notes, because about the, yes, indeed, thank you. Because the Panama Papers and the Fonseca, whose strapline apparently is wealth management as you deserve it. Okay. So all of the leak from Fonseca, the Panama Papers, it's really quite interesting what's happening, I feel. And for me, I don't really want to keep going on about David Cameron, not because I don't think we shouldn't be going on about David Cameron, but because of the implications of some of the information that's been coming out about how the top 1% of the richest individuals in the world, sort of squirrel away their cash and do sort of, if you like, avoidances of tax payments, whether legal or not. And that's quite interesting because obviously in Fonseca, apparently, you've got Putin's mates, you've got African despots, you've got arms smugglers, you've got drug dealers, you've got corporate vehicles that ultimately belong to places like North Korea and Syria, alongside, individuals that we may or may not consider to be socially responsible. So in these places where people offshore, you've got all of these individuals. And I think it's quite very interesting, all the stuff that's been coming out on the news recently, because I think that if we're not careful, we can start going on about, Cameron this and Cameron that and the various individuals, and we can get sidelined into all sorts of different stories and narratives that will take us away from the main points. And for me, Chakrabarti in The Guardian, and one of the articles there was really hit on it for me, that the richest 1% are opting out of democracy.
Yes.
And yet they're making the rules about the democracy that we're living in. Yes. So, we could go on about, Cameron's £300,000 this and his father's that and all the rest of it. But that doesn't get... I mean, I think that Chakrabarti went to one of the big points about this, is that everyone else around this table is living within a democracy that 1% of the richest individuals have opted out on, and they are creating the environment in which everybody else has to live. And that sort of power and the inequality in that power, if this debate does anything and it brings to light those sorts of issues and makes the general public think, then that will be great. If we get involved in what Juvenal in the 1st century AD was talking about in the Roman Empire, that the British public or the public around the world just get appeased by bread and circuses, then that's going to be an issue. If we see that Cameron gets his comeuppance or whatever people might want, and we go, oh well, that's okay then, and we get involved in a media that tells all of these stories, that is bread and circuses.
And that media
that is bread and circuses.
That top 1%.
Absolutely.
Who are creating their own rules.
Behind the scenes, they'll be going, thanks Dave. You took the hit. You've still got the cash, thanks Dave. We're all right. Ching! Yeah. You know, so it is really, that's what I want. That's the point I want to get across. Yeah. That we need to be cleverer. We need to be cleverer about what we do.
Do you know what? I knew straight away when we spoke about it, I knew that you felt very strongly. There's some really good points in there. So,
thank you, Claire.
Oh yeah, you see.
Thank you, Claire.
Like, I'll do all of that. The Cheryl Cole and Liam Payne stuff. We'll leave all the sensible stuff.
Cheryl.
No. On a more serious note, once again, Kathy, I know that there's something really caught your eye this week.
It's got my
You're like
goat.
chomping at the bit, ready to go.
Yes, but all joking aside, it is a very serious issue. I don't know if you're aware that even though Northern Ireland is technically part of the UK, it doesn't abide by all the UK laws, one of which is, I think, the Abortion Act. Was it 1978, the Abortion Act? And it is, in fact, illegal to terminate a pregnancy in Northern Ireland for any reason, be it rape, incest, danger to the mother's life. You know, we did have a woman die last year as a result of being refused an abortion. And just recently we've had 3 women imprisoned because they purchased so-called abortion tablets from the internet, took them, and were found out for doing so, in one case by her flatmates. They found soiled dressings and things that they thought disturbing, and blew the whistle on it. Now, the problem here is that, well, one of the many problems is that it's also illegal for them to have a termination or an abortion on the NHS in the UK. However, they can come and pay for one. So what we're finding now is this really quite medieval law is targeting the poorest women, and it's the poorest women who are going to prison. And this law, by the way, was deemed by the Belfast High Court in November as being a breach of international human rights. However, the Northern Irish Assembly this year have decided, regardless, they're going to keep that law, regardless.
Well, how can you go to a prison for a decision you've made, whether it be right, wrong, ethically, whatever? It's a decision about your body.
Yes.
You know, it's like, you know, you step out the house and, oh, don't like the colour underwear she's going, off you go to prison, love. It's a decision you're making that day.
Isn't it? And I say medieval because, you know, we often term some countries that are, say, I don't know, less civilised or less... I don't know what word to use really without offending, but there are some countries where, you know, women are attacked or blamed for many things, and there are actually some countries in the world right now where you will go to prison if you have a miscarriage. Oh my God. That is actually going on in our world. You know, the women in this world. This is what the whole reason for this program. Women in this world are suffering needlessly, and it's a punishment to be a woman half the time. But this Northern Ireland thing, surely in the UK, and Northern Ireland is part of the UK, we think we don't castigate people just
a long way from there, shouldn't we?
I'd love to know how many women were involved in this decision.
Yes.
I'd love to know how many women were sitting on the decision board at the Belfast...
The National Assembly.
Northern
Irish
and the
National
Northern
Assembly,
I'd love to know how many women were sitting up there and
saying this
what they were saying.
We agree with this.
And who was listening to them, because it's
After
not
the
a very
courts made that
pro-women
ruling.
decision.
I mean,
Not
look at
at
it
all,
from the other
no.
hand, you know, what happens if a bloke goes and gets the, you know, do they go to prison for the same thing?
Well, it
You
hasn't
see, got to
it
flip
hasn't
that
met
one
the
round.
egg yet, has
Well,
it?
exactly.
So, then we're talking about viability of life, and therein lies a whole other debate.
Though, isn't it?
Yes,
Do you know what I mean? You're
yes.
stopping it before it even gets there. So it would be interesting to see that side of it. You know,
Or
but
how about the woman who maybe doesn't want to give up the baby but is coerced and pressured into doing so by the male, does so, and then she's the one who goes to prison. It's the old witch hunt again. We're going back to the Dark Ages with, you know, if a woman has a strong opinion or wants to take some action on behalf of herself, she's a witch. And if she floats, she's a witch. If she drowns, she's innocent, you know. So.
I'll tell you what we've had on top of that is everything. Oh dear, I think I need to lie down after this. We've had a massive weekend once again. Millions and millions of eyes on the whole of Liverpool, which is fantastic with the Grand National. So many different things to look at. I think a thing that has massively annoyed me, and I'm hoping that it's going to turn round with the way that the Mail Online seem to have somehow targeted Liverpool women, no matter what, it's the big day of the year, you know, and I would say 90% of the women who go look fantastic. Yeah. And it's like this year they've gone on a bear hunt to track down that 10% and go, look at the state of these women. And it's actually really riled me.
Well, they do. I mean, as a photographer, I know how to take a photo of somebody candidly, looking good or not looking good. Very simple. Wait till they're not speaking. Their face is relaxed. They're going to look better. If they're in the middle of saying something, their face will be like that. The wind might gust up. They might spill a drink. They might trip. And they are deliberately choosing, editing. It's a negative edit.
Everybody there to go look at it.
If you were to take a photo in the street of a woman's skirt blowing up through no fault of her own, just the way the wind blows, you could potentially be arrested for perversion.
Absolutely.
You're right.
But if you have a press bib on at Aintree, free reign.
Oh, yes. Ruin ladies' lives.
Yeah, but it is, and it's such a shame because it is the one time that people who come to the area, they all say about it. And it annoys me that they've pulled this negativity from what should have been such a massively positive event to go, look, the eyes of the world are here. They're looking at
The
it.
women, it's encouraging the prejudice against Scousers that is seen a lot around this country. You know, we go back to the Morrisons thing where the Morrisons were looking for people with northern regional accents, what have you, you know.
And it's like, well, do you know what?
But no, Scousers allowed.
Whenever you have a programme, even like Downton Abbey, and there was somebody who was a thief within the house, why were they a Scouser? Why did they have to be a Scouser? I was so annoyed. It was, but it's just like it's done it again, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not just affecting those women who are photographed, it's affecting the whole region, and it's something the whole region should stand up against.
Liverpool women are fantastic, and I think we show the rest of the country, in fact the rest of the world, what to do. Right, that's all we've got time for today. I've laughed, I've cried, I've been angry, I think I've been through every emotion. Join us next time where we're going to be joined by local entrepreneur Amanda Moss to talk about babies in the boardroom. We will see you all then.